Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my little catch-up review for Mustard. No, that was a really lame joke. You know, I'm gonna leave. Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my catch-up review for Darkest Hour. I'm falling a little bit behind on it. Not that I'm still not enjoying it, and I have been keeping up with it, but it just kind of fell by the wayside with everything going on at the end of the year with videos I wanted to do and just busy end of the year stuff. I did actually record a review for 114 and then just completely forgot to edit it. So in this review, I'm just going to kind of give my blanket thoughts on 114 and 115. It's just kind of more of an overview of the story because that is one thing I've observed about this story, and this isn't necessarily a complaint and more of an observation, and it's not something that's unheard of, but I feel like each issue doesn't feel like a succinct issue of like, oh yeah, I remember issue 113 because it had this beginning, middle, and end. They all feel like it's part of a larger graphic novel and you're just ripping pages out. And again, that's not unheard of in comics in general. Sometimes you'll have a comic that feels like a complete comic. Even if it's leading into something, it'll feel like a complete comic. Sometimes you will have this feeling, but I think overall it feels like this was written like a big graphic novel and they're just ripping out sections of it. And that's kind of why it's hard to remember some of that. It's why it's easier to talk about this freeform. So I basically more just jotted down some notes of stuff I wanted to talk about. I think it was the beginning of 114, I remember that you have Rocky and Adam in jail with all these other Rangers before they get transformed into the Dark Rangers. And as a side note, I think I brought this up before, I love the corrupted Dark Spectre Ranger suits. I really wish that Hasbro was continuing with the Lightning Collection as a consistent brand, and they had a similar synergy with the brand that they do with Marvel and Star Wars, where when new things come out, you'll get figures announced around the window. Every time. They don't do it so much with the comics and stuff. And where are my High Republic figures? And there's a bunch of figures from Jedi Fallen Order that aren't out. Now I'm defeating my own argument. I mean, setting that aside, in terms of Marvel, when What If will come out, or the show will come out, or Ahsoka comes out with Star Wars, they usually have figures come out around that time, or announced around that time. And I would love for PR to have that synergy where it's oh, we're doing Darkest Hour, go pre-order the Darkest Hour mmpr and Dino Charge figures. And bottom line is, I like the suits. I wish we could get figures of them, and odds are we probably will never get figures of them. But anyway, when they're in this jail, they kind of talk to some other Rangers. I think there's some Wild Force Rangers there and stuff, and they find out they're being pulled from different times, because obviously the Wild Force Rangers and the other Rangers are oh, I think, who else was there? I don't know. Xander? I think Xander was there, but they're from their point of view, the Jedi are evil, but also the MMPR Rangers are meant to be older, but they're obviously interacting with the younger versions, so it's just, showing they're all pulled from different times. And it was a fun little interaction. Also nice little interactions with Phantom Ranger and Billy and alternate universe Trini, coinless Trini, because they're trying to use the Morphin Master Egg, and they offer a bit of exposition in case you didn't read the Power Rangers Unlimited arc about they're looking for the Morphin Masters, give you a rundown origin, who the emissaries are, and definitely repeated point, but that is probably one of my favorite things about the arc is I love how much it's taking advantage of pretty much all the lore that's been established. There's also some pretty interesting scenes with Tommy as he gets captured by Dark Spectre, and he's kind of challenging himself to corrupt White Ranger, but Tommy's not having it. There's an interesting conversation between him and Rita, which I think is one of my favorite prime Tommy moments in maybe years in the main comics, because I've said this before, is that I feel main Tommy, it gets really shoved in the background, which is fine in the sense that Tommy gets a lot of focus. It's good to let other Rangers shine, and when you have Draken around so much, it makes sense you wouldn't want to have too much Tommy going on, but it feels weird how boring and in the background Tommy feels. So this was just a really nice character moment where she brings up you're a Ranger because of me and you should be thankful, and he's no, my friends in Zordon saved me, I'm not going to be thankful to an abuser. And it was a really well done scene, and it was nice to actually get some characterization and personality for the Tommy character. And we still have Matt recovering too, and I'm really surprised that despite still being slightly annoyed that we did Green with Evil again, how much I've enjoyed that story and how much it's worked, and it's kind of tying all these parallels together with Tommy and what's going on right now, and I'll be curious to see how that resolves. And also, as a side note, I really love this team lineup of seeing all these different Rangers work together, the Hyperforce Rangers and Dino Charge Purple and the MMPR team and the Draken Rangers. It's kind of a cool lineup with some interesting dynamics, both to see them in the field together and also just some of the dialogue and stuff. They also even bring in Zed, who's kind of chilling on the moon. They're oh, we need help. And I know another Ranger that can help, and it's, Ranger Zed, and that's another interesting dynamic. I feel he's been kind of in the background for the last little bit. Hopefully there's a little more for him soon. Obviously, you also have Rita kind of realizing that Dark Spectre is basically treating her as terribly as everyone else. And you have other villains questioning things, Death Ranger's clearly got stuff going on, and he's being punished for it. And Dane is also questioning things. Side note, I'd love for Dane to get a cool negative Shadow Ranger suit that's kind of not necessarily a recoloring, but kind of echoes it. It would be cool to have effectively an evil Doggy Kruger. That would be really cool. Everyone's becoming Ranger in this arc anyway. But yeah, there's all kind of dissent in the ranks. I'll be curious to see where that ultimately goes. Like I said in the past, I'm curious to see if they're going to line this up, because even though this is a different universe and then we're also on a different timeline because everything's changed after Shattered Grid, they still kind of line things up so that they can hit the bullet points of what the show universe did. And obviously Dark Spectre didn't come into play until In Space. And so I'm curious, are they going to set things so that they can still do that if they ever touch on that story? Is Rita going to end up betraying Dark Spectre and taking the throne, so to speak? I'll be really curious to see how that goes. Also, probably the most interesting thing to happen at the very end, kind of your cliffhanger bit, is look, when they're all fighting, Draken seems to betray them, where Kim's in trouble, must be Tuesday, and she's screaming to Draken for help, and he just is like, sorry Kim, you're on your own, and he starts going through the arch portal, and then corrupted Ranger Slayer, who, if you remember, kind of got taken before, follows him. So that was a pretty interesting cliffhanger to end on. But overall, I am still really enjoying this. Like I said, it was just kind of circumstances falling by the wayside. And these reviews don't always do the best, even though the comics are the most engaging PR stories of all time, honestly. But I still really am enjoying this arc a lot. Like I said, I really love that it takes advantage of all the lore. It does just feel like each issue is just kind of pages ripped out rather than being a succinct issue. But like I said, that's not necessarily a complaint, more just an observation, but it makes it a little bit weirder to, record these and review them as individual issues. But I am overall really enjoying this arc, and I'm glad we have some good PR content to enjoy while we wait during this, indefinite hiatus. But what are you guys thinking of the Darkest Hour event? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.